My wife toasted her new life, with her lover sitting inches from me. They laughed. I stayed quiet. 15 minutes later, sirens were screaming, and her world was over. If you ever want to know who truly owns the room, don't look at who's laughing. Look at the one who isn't. That night, I was the only quiet person in a rooftop bar packed with noise. "Raise your glasses," my wife Haley shouted, already a little drunk on expensive champagne and her own ego. The city glittered behind her, all glass and neon. Her blue dress clung to her like she'd chosen it specifically to remind me she still knew how to weaponize beauty. On her left stood her lover, a gym-built guy named Ryan with a predator's smile. On her right, 3 of their friends, all fake sympathy and loud laughter. I was the extra chair at the table. The punchline no one had told yet. Haley clinked her glass against mine, hard enough that the rim almost cracked. "To my new life," she announced, turning so the whole table could see my face. "And to my husband finally learning his place." They roared. Ryan slipped an arm around her waist like I wasn't 3 feet away. I watched his hand travel down her back. Casual practiced. My jaw tightened. My fingers stayed loose around my glass. She mocked me beside her lover, convinced I'd crumble. Yet a quarter hour later, chaos swallowed them. Sirens wailed, and I walked away without a single mark. Calm, silent, and terrifyingly victorious. I'm telling you this now because everything that matters happened in those 15 minutes. Haley tilted her head, studying me like I was a boring painting she'd kept too long. "God, Lucas," she said, voice dripping with poison-sweet pity. "You still do that thing with your face when you're trying not to cry. It's honestly embarrassing." The table laughed. Ryan smirked. One of her friends, Jenna, actually clapped. "Come on, babe," Ryan said to Haley, not even wasting my name. "Don't be too hard on him. Some guys just aren't built to handle real life." I took a sip of water. Not alcohol. Not tonight. My phone vibrated in my pocket once, then twice. Short confirmation buzzes. Right on schedule. Haley noticed the way I glanced down and stepped closer, heels clicking like gunshots on the tile. "Who's texting you?" she asked, voice suddenly sharp. "Your little accounting buddies. Are they checking if you made it home before 10 like a good boy work?" I said calmly. "Nothing important. Nothing important." She repeated loudly, turning back to the table. That should be his slogan. "Lucas, nothing important, Carter." More laughter. Someone whistled. I'll let it roll over me. Here's the thing. A year ago I would have snapped right there. Raised my voice. Begged to ask what happened to us. Tonight I just watched her. I noticed the way her pupils were slightly larger than they should have been. The way she leaned on Ryan not just for show but for balance. The way her fingers trembled when she reached for her drink. She'd been partying hard long before I arrived. "Why are you so quiet?" she pressed, taking another step closer, invading my space on purpose. I could smell her perfume. Expensive, cold, like flowers drowned in ice. "Say something pathetic." "You're good at that?" I set my glass down carefully, looked her right in the eyes. "You done?" I asked. Her laugh was short and sharp, like glass breaking. "Done? No, baby. I'm just getting started." She turned to the others. "You guys should have seen him last week when he found out about Ryan. He actually asked me what he done wrong." She mimicked my voice in a whiny tone. "Haley, tell me what I did. How can I fix this?" "Pathetic." Ryan snorted. "For real?" "Oh yeah, I told him the truth though," she said, eyes flashing with cruel satisfaction. "Some men are just placeholders until something better shows up." That one hurt. I won't lie to you. It hit like a punch I didn't block. But I've been hit harder these last few months in rooms where nobody was watching with words I couldn't forget. This was just the public version. Jenna leaned in. "You're really staying married to him while you're with Ryan?" she asked like I wasn't sitting right there. Haley shrugged. "For now. Lucas is useful. He pays things, signs things, stays out of the way." "Well," she glanced at me, smirk widening most of the time. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, but my voice stayed even. "Careful, Haley," I said quietly. "You're going to miss having me useful." She rolled her eyes so dramatically the whole table saw it. "What are you going to do, Lucas?" she said, words sharp. "Cry on my shoes. Report me to HR. You're not dangerous. You're background noise." The phrase landed in my chest and stayed there. Background noise. I smiled. It surprised even me. "What's so funny?" she snapped. I checked my watch. 11 minutes had passed since the first vibration in my pocket. "For more to go." "I was just thinking," I said. "It's wild how fast things change." She scoffed. "Yeah, I got hotter. You got duller. That about covers it." "Not exactly what I meant," I replied. Ryan pushed his chair back, squaring his shoulders like he wanted me to notice. You know why you're losing her, man? He asked. Because you don't fight. You're soft. Women don't respect soft. Haley slid her hand up his chest approvingly. Exactly. Every word they tossed at me felt like they were digging their own grave. And I was just watching, silent, holding the map. My phone buzzed again. Third and final message. Even over the music, I heard something else now. Faint sirens in the distance, growing louder, weaving through city traffic, heading straight our way. I looked past Haley to the hostess stand where two uniformed cops had just stepped off the elevator. They scanned the room. One of them had a photo in his hand. Haley followed my gaze and frowned. What now? She muttered. The officers started toward our section. The closer they came, the quieter the bar got, like someone was slowly turning down the volume on the world. Jenna whispered, guys. Ryan's face lost a shade of color. I watched his jaw clench, his eyes flick from the cops to the stairwell like he was calculating an exit. My heartbeat slowed. For the first time in months I felt steady. Lucas, Haley hissed, her voice suddenly small under the music. What did you do? I didn't answer. The officers stopped at her table. Ryan Miller, one of them asked. Ryan stood, hands half raised, already defensive. What's this about? Before they could answer, he shoved his chair back too hard. It tipped. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. The music cut off like the night itself lost power. The next few seconds exploded, shouting, movement, a scuffle I won't describe. Haley shrieking his name. Jenna crying. A waiter slipped on the broken glass and hit the floor. Another table went over. Panic spread faster than any rumor. And then the sound that tied it all together. Sirens closed now, deafening. Paramedics rushed him behind the police as the fight ended badly for Ryan and worse for anyone standing too close. Bodies on stretchers, oxygen masks, a neck brace. Haley clinging to a railing, mascara streaking, screaming questions no one answered. I stepped back, letting the chaos swallow them. Nobody touched me. Nobody even bumped my shoulder. I walked past the broken glass, past the overturned chairs, past my wife's outstretched hand as she shouted my name like it suddenly mattered again. I didn't look back. 15 minutes after she tried to break me in front of her lover, I left that rooftop the same way I'd arrived, on my own 2 feet, calm, silent, and for the first time in my life, terrifyingly victorious. You don't end up on a rooftop watching your wife cling to her bruised lover by accident. You earn that moment, one small humiliation at a time. The night of the rooftop wasn't the beginning. It was the bill finally arriving. The first time I knew something was wrong with Haley, it was stupidly small. That's how real disasters start. Quiet, boring, easy to ignore. She was late coming home. Not dramatic late. Not 2 a.m. with smeared lipstick late. Just 30 minutes, then an hour, then 2. No text, no call. Our dinners have been cold a lot lately. I was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, pretending to work. Our house looked like a magazine spread. White counters, black fixtures, the kind of knives on the wall that said, "We host people who pretend to cook." We bought the place together 3 years ago when we still said things like forever without choking on it. I checked my phone again. Nothing. Finally, at 11:47 p.m., the lock turned. Haley walked in laughing. You know that laugh someone uses when they want the whole world to hear how happy they are without you? That one. She wore a red blazer I'd never seen. Her hair pulled up like she'd just left a photo shoot. Perfume hit the air before the door fully closed. "Oh," she said, stopping when she saw me. "You're still up?" "Yeah," I replied. "You're late." She rolled her eyes, flicked her heels off, and walked straight to the fridge. "Relax, Dad," she muttered. "I was out with friends." "Which friends?" she shrugged, pulling out a bottle of water. "We're people. Jenna, others you don't know them." I watched her. Her makeup was perfect. Too perfect. No smudged eyeliner. No lipstick out of place. Not a long tired day kind of face. A curated looked after all night kind of face. "You didn't answer your phone." I said, "My battery died," she said immediately. Right on cue. Her phone, by the way, lit up in her hand when she put the bottle down. 20% battery. I stared at the glowing screen. She noticed and moved it behind her. Casual but quick. Must have come back on. She added, "Too late." There's a feeling you get the first time you are absolutely sure someone you love is lying to you. It's like a click behind your ribs. Not loud. Just bell. She froze just long enough for me to see it. Then the performance started. "Are you serious right now?" She snapped. "Lucas, I work. I have a life. I'm not chained to this house so you can clock me in and out like some intern." "That's not what I'm saying," I replied softly. "I'm just asking." "Well, stop," she shot back. "Because it sounds controlling and pathetic." There was again that word pathetic. This time I didn't argue. I just sat there and watched her throw her bag on the counter, her keys, her phone. She didn't notice that when the screen lit up again, I saw one name twice in the notification previews. Ryan, no last name, just Ryan and a heart emoji. I didn't say anything. I waited until she went to take a shower, humming some pop song like nothing in the world could ever touch her. Then I walked to the counter, picked up her phone and stared at it. We didn't snoop in each other's phones before. We never had to. Trust had been the invisible furniture in our marriage. But now there was this draft in the room, a cold spot, something missing. Don't do it, the old version of me whispered. The new version of me typed in her passcode. Still my birthday. The messages opened like a curtain being pulled back. There he was, Ryan. The conversation wasn't subtle. It didn't leave room for hopeful misinterpretation. Her laughing about how slow I was. Him calling her his like I was a roommate. She tolerated pictures. As I scrolled past so fast my stomach twisted, words like last night and your place and next time he's working late. I didn't breathe, didn't move. I read months of betrayal in 20 seconds. In another room, the shower turned on. You'd think that would be the moment I'd confront her, right? Burst into the bathroom, phone in hand, shout, cry, demand answers like some messed up movie scene. But I didn't. I just put the phone down exactly where it had been. Sat back at the table, closed my laptop without saving. When she came out, hair wrapped in a towel, skin flushed from hot water, she glanced at me. You're still sulking? She asked, annoyed. Seriously? I'm just thinking, I replied. About what? She scoffed. About how you told another man my weaknesses like they were funny. About how you used our marriage as cover for your little secret thrill rides. About how you transformed me from a husband into a convenient idiot. But all I said was about how fast people change. She snorted, well, some of us grow up, some of us stay boring. She brushed past me deliberately, letting her shoulder hit mine. Not hard, just enough to say move. I watch her disappear down the hall, phone in hand, screen lighting up again with his name. I could have left that night. I should have. But instead I started planning. You don't walk away calm and victorious from a rooftop because you're stronger than everyone else. You walk away like that because you've seen every angle months before anyone knows a game started. The funny thing is once you know, every small thing becomes a spotlight. The way she held her phone screen tilted away from me. The sudden gym membership when she'd always joked she was allergic to sweat. The perfume that wasn't hers but clung to her jacket one night. All of it built a rhythm like footsteps leading straight to a cliff. 2 weeks after I read those messages, I decided to stop pretending. It was a Thursday. Quiet, boring, nothing special Thursday. I came home early from work, stomach tight, mind clear for the first time in weeks. I'd rehearsed a dozen versions of this conversation in my head, each one louder than the last. In the end, the real thing started with 4 stupid words. We need to talk. Was on the couch, feet up, scrolling on her phone. Reality show murmuring in the background. Half-dressed contestants crying about made-up problems. She didn't look up. If this is about the dishes, she said, skip it. I've had a long day. It's not about the dishes, I replied. Something in my tone must have cut through. She sighed dramatically, dropped the remote and finally looked at me. Well, serious voice. Okay, Lucas, talk. My heart pounded. My hands were steady. I know about Ryan, I said. No warm-up, no gentle entry. Just dropped it between us like a stone. Her eyes flickered. One tiny involuntary twitch. Then her face smoothed over into boredom. Who? She asked. That one word told me everything I needed to know about who she'd become. Don't do that, I said quietly. Please don't insult me that badly. She leaned back, arms crossed. You're going to have to be more specific, Lucas. I know more than one Ryan. The one you send pictures to when you tell me you're working late, I said. The one whose name pops up at midnight with hearts. The one you called your upgrade. That Ryan. Silence. Then she laughed. Not nervous laughter. Not guilty laughter. Actual amusement. Oh my God, she said, shaking her head. You went through my phone. That's what you're focusing on? I asked. Yeah. She snapped, eyes flashing. Because that's creepy. That's controlling. That's embarrassing. Do you have any idea how pathetic it is for a grown man to snoop on his wife like some insecure teenager? My hands curled into fists at my sides. Do you have any idea how pathetic it is to cheat on your husband for months and call him a placeholder to your boyfriend? Her jaw tightened. There it was. The mask slipped for half a second. You read everything, she muttered. I read enough, I replied. She rolled her eyes, stood up, started pacing like I betrayed her. You know what your problem is? She said. You think just because you pay the mortgage you owe me? And Lucas, marriage is not prison. If I'm unhappy, I get to look for better. That's life. You get to talk to me. I said, you get to say you're unhappy. You don't get to turn me into a joke in someone else's bed. She scoffed. Don't be dramatic. It wasn't that deep. Not that deep, I repeated. You told him I was basically furniture. You let him call me weak. You told him you were just waiting until you secure the bag before dumping me. That's not deep. Her expression changed. Mean, sharp, almost excited, like she'd been waiting for this fight. Okay, fine, she said. You want honesty here. I'm bored with you. You don't challenge me. You don't scare me. You don't make me feel anything anymore. With him, I feel alive. With you, I feel like I'm clocking in and out of job I never wanted. That one split something inside me. I took a breath. So, leave, I said. If you're that unhappy, leave. She laughed again. Softer now, more dangerous. Oh, sweetie, she said. It's not that simple. The house, the accounts, your nice little promotion, the image of the perfect married couple. You think I'm walking away from all that just because your feelings are hurt. There was clear, raw, undisguised. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a strategist. You're staying because it's convenient, I said. I'm staying, she replied, stepping closer because you're useful. You keep the lights on. You impress my parents. You make me look stable while I figure out what I really want. Once everything is lined up, then maybe we'll talk divorce on my terms. And what am I supposed to do until then? I asked. She smiled, a cruel practice curve of her lips. Exactly what you've always done, she whispered. Stay out of the way. Sign things. Don't ask questions. And definitely don't embarrass yourself by trying to compete with him. I stared at her. Really stared like I was seeing a stranger wearing my wife's face. That's who you are now? I asked. Someone who uses people until she's done with them. Welcome to adulthood, she said. Some of us just admit it. It was in that moment, not on the rooftop, not at the bar, that something inside me quietly shifted. I stopped trying to win her back. I started planning how to walk away without leaving her in control of the wreckage. The night after that fight, I didn't sleep. Haley snored softly beside me like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just told me to accept being her walking wallet. Her phone face down on the nightstand, screen pulsing every few minutes with new messages from Ryan. Every vibration was a reminder. In this bed, I was the only one not having fun. I lay there staring at the ceiling, and a single sentence settled in my head. If I walk away now, she wins with my money. So I got up. I moved to the kitchen, opened my laptop, and stopped being her heartbroken husband. I started being what I actually was, an accountant who knew how to follow money like a bloodhound. First, I made copies, bank statements, investment accounts, property documents, insurance policies, anything with both her names on it. I downloaded, printed, stored in a folder I labeled something boring. Q4 tax review. Haley would never touch anything that sounded like work. Then I backed up everything from her phone I'd seen. Screenshots, timestamps, call logs. I sent them to an encrypted email I'd set up years ago and forgotten about. Old Lucas had made that for extra security. New Lucas realized it might save his life. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, my email notification pinged again. This time not from her world but mine. My boss, Ethan, had forwarded an internal flag about a client account. Suspicious transfers, strange invoices, names that didn't match. One name stood out like a neon sign. Ryan Miller. I stared at it, my heart doing something between laughing and breaking. Ryan wasn't just some random gym hero. He was attached to a small consulting firm that suddenly appeared on one of our mid-level clients' vendor lists, pulling nice round payments for strategy support. The client had asked if we'd recommended him. We hadn't. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could have ignored it, pretended it was coincidence. But the universe doesn't hand you a gift like that twice. The next day at work, Ethan called me into his office. He closed the door, leaned back, and tapped the printed report. Tell me what you see, he said. I walked him through it. Fake vendor, overbilled services, sloppy attempts to hide cash extraction. Classic fraud, but not very smart fraud. Think it's criminal or just dumb? He asked. Both, I said. And if we don't take this seriously, it becomes our problem. He nodded slowly. I'll escalate this to legal. In the meantime, dig deeper. Quietly. Quietly. That word sat in my chest like a key. That night, instead of begging my wife to love me, I dug into Ryan's life. Public records, old court filings, social media posts where he bragged too loudly about money he shouldn't have yet. A bar fight 3 years ago, a restraining order from an ex who'd eventually dropped it. And then buried in a database most people never see. Something sharper. An active arrest warrant in another state tied to a financial scheme he'd never actually shown up in court for. I sat alone at my desk, the room dark except for the blue glow of the screen, and realized something. Haley hadn't traded up. She tied herself to a sinking ship and tried to make me feel like the one drowning. The next step wasn't rage. It was a phone call. I didn't call Ryan. I didn't call Haley. I called someone I hadn't talked to in years. My college friend Marcus, now a detective in the city. He answered on the second ring. Carter. Damn. You only call when something's on fire. It is. I said, but not my house. Not yet. We met for coffee 2 days later. I slid him a folder with everything. Documents on Ryan, the fake consulting, the outstanding warrant I'd found. I'm not asking you to bend anything, I said. I'm asking you to look. If I got this wrong, tell me I'm paranoid and I'll shut up. He flipped through the papers, his expression shifting from casual to focused. Yeah, Marcus said slowly. This isn't nothing. And that warrant, that's real guy's been skating by on technicalities. You sure you want to be tied to this? I already am, I replied. He's sleeping with my wife. Marcus let out a low whistle. You always did pick the calmest way to say the craziest stuff. He closed the folder. I can't promise you fireworks, he said. But if we move, we'll move clean. If we pick him up, it'll be by the book. No vigilante crap, Lucas. You don't touch him. You don't bait him. You let us handle it. I don't want him hurt, I said. I want him stopped. And I want her to see exactly who she bet on. Over the next week, things moved in the background. Quiet calls, confirmations, coordination with another jurisdiction. Warrants updated, logistics arranged. On the surface, life went on. Haley posted brunch photos with friends. She came home smelling like someone else's cologne. She rolled her eyes when I talked. She called me boring, safe, predictable. But when she announced, all excited and smug, that Ryan had booked a celebration night on a rooftop bar to toast some big money when he just pulled off, I smiled for real. That sounds perfect. I told her, invite me. I didn't realize how convincing I'd become until Haley believed me. She spent the entire week bragging about that rooftop event like it was her coronation. She bought a new dress, booked a hair appointment, and spent hours practicing smiles in the mirror. Sharp little grins meant to stab me without ever drawing blood. She didn't know I'd stopped bleeding a long time ago. To her, this wasn't just a party. It was the moment she got to parade her upgrade in public and watch me fold. Don't embarrass yourself, she warned as we got ready. I don't want people thinking you're some abandoned puppy begging for scraps. I looked at her reflection in the mirror. The cruelty didn't surprise me anymore. What surprised me was how tired she looked beneath it. Like the bitchiness was a mask glued too tight. I won't embarrass myself. I replied, promise. She misinterpreted the calm in my tone as defeat. She smirked and applied another layer of lipstick. Ryan picked her up 3 hours before the event. He claimed the crew was meeting early. She didn't invite me to join. Didn't even kiss my cheek goodbye. Just to stay. See you there. Try not to dress like a tax form. Over her shoulder, the door slammed. The house vibrated like it exhaled relief. For a moment, I stood alone in the silence and wondered when exactly the woman I married had disappeared. Was it gradual like corrosion or sudden like a trapdoor? Marriage doesn't end in a moment. It dies in the pauses, those quiet seconds where love should live and doesn't. I arrived at the rooftop exactly 20 minutes before things were set in motion. Just enough time to let them get comfortable in their arrogance. The place was ridiculous. String lights, expensive cocktails, the type of music rich people pretend is art. I spotted Haley instantly. She glowed in her blue dress, leaning against Ryan like she was molded to him. He looked smug, dressed like someone who'd watched a YouTube tutorial on confidence. Jenna and 2 other friends circled them like backup dancers. When Haley saw me, her smile stretched wide. Wolfish hungry. Well, she cooped. You actually came. I am impressed. I figured you'd be crying in the car. The group laughed. Ryan didn't even look at me. He didn't have to. I was in his mind already defeated. I smiled. You look happy. I said, of course I am, she replied. This is what life feels like when you aren't being dragged down. Every sentence she spoke was a knife. She wanted me to absorb. She needed me to react. She needed a performance. My humiliation was the fuel that made her feel powerful. But I didn't flinch. And that scared her more than anything. People expect anger. They know how to fight fury. They don't know what to do with silence. Ryan finally spoke, voice dripping with condescension. Relax, man. It's not personal. You had your shot. You blew it. Haley just wants more. Be a gentleman and bow out. Haley nodded eagerly. Exactly. You're not a villain, Lucas. You're just not enough. It was stunning how proudly she said that, like the universe had confirmed it in writing. I glanced at my watch. 5 minutes until everything changed. The rooftop buzzed with the smug energy of people who think nothing can touch them. Drinks clinked. Laughter echoed. None of them understood how fragile their little world was. Haley leaned into Ryan's chest, staring at me over his shoulder like she was savoring her victory. Lucas, she said sweetly. Don't you want me to be happy? Ito replied. More than you know. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't like that answer. It didn't hurt enough. Then leave, she demanded. Get out my story. I took a step closer. Not threatening, just present. My voice was calm, steady. Haley, I said, stories don't end when you decide they do. Something flickered in her expression. Confusion, maybe fear. She wasn't used to me holding ground without shouting or crying. Then her phone buzzed. Ryan checked his too. Both froze for a fraction of a second before forcing smiles back into place. They were expecting something. Money, a confirmation, a win, a life they hadn't earned. Almost felt sad for them. Almost. 2 minutes left. Haley opened her mouth to start another round of insults, but stopped. Her face twitched. A stiffness crawled into her posture. Ryan's smile faltered. Jenna whispered something, eyes widening. They hadn't sensed danger, but they felt the shift. Predators can smell when the wind changes. Haley blinked rapidly. Confusion creeping in her voice. What's happening? I didn't answer. The rooftop noise faded around her. The world paused 1 minute, and that's when it hit me like a revelation. This wasn't the moment she betrayed me. This was the moment she realized I wasn't the one who would break. In the distance, a faint siren wailed, still far, but approaching. Fuss, determined, Haley's breathing quickened. Ryan's hand clenched around his glass. The friends exchanged nervous glances. The night, for the first time, wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine, and they felt it without understanding why. That was the moment, the precise second, my revenge became real. Not when the sirens arrived, not when Ryan's name was called. Not when Haley's world cracked. No, it was when she looked at me and finally saw something she had never expected. I wasn't her victim. I was her reckoning. If you've never watched confidence rot in real time, let me tell you, it's breathtaking. Haley stood there, her smile twitching like a glitch in bad software, trying to reboot into the self-assured villain she'd rehearsed for weeks. But the rooftop had shifted. The air tasted different. The music felt wrong. Even the lights seemed too bright, exposing everything she'd hidden behind jokes and insults. She tried to reassert the script. What are you staring at? She snapped, voice cracking like thin ice. You're not actually thinking you have the upper hand here, are you? Thinking. I replied, no, I already know. The confidence in my voice landed like a slap. She hadn't prepared for. She blinked, astonished. Not by the words, but by who spoke them. She wasn't used to this version of me. Ryan stepped in, chest puffed like a rooster who hadn't realized the butcher arrived. Back off, Lucas, he growled. You're lucky I haven't already. He never finished that sentence because that's when the sirens hit the rooftop in full volume. 3 squad cars, 1 unmarked vehicle, and a fire rescue van. Because Ryan's arrest wasn't just an arrest, it was an operation. The rooftop guests froze midlife. Phones lifted. Someone whispered. Is this her aide? Haley turned ghost pale. Her lips parted. Her pupils dilated. She looked like a child, realizing the monster under her bed wasn't imaginary. It was standing at the foot of it. Jenna tugged her sleeve, voice trembling. Haley, what did he do? Haley didn't answer. She stared at me instead like I was suddenly the one holding the strings. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just watched it unfold. The officers approached, pushing past tables and confused guests until one stopped in front of Ryan. Ryan Miller. The room snapped silent. You could hear the blood convert to ice in Haley's veins. Ryan tried to laugh it off. Look, man, whatever this is. Ryan Miller, the officer repeated, you're under arrest under charges of fraud, interstate evasion, and violation of a standing warrant. Haley gasped so loud the table next to us turned. Her perfect polished future just shattered and she realized it before Ryan did. Ryan's bravado cracked like cheap plastic. Wait, no. That got cleared, she told me. He pointed at Haley. Not at me. At her. And there it is. I murmured mostly to myself. Loyalty. But Haley wasn't loyal. Haley was strategic. And strategy only works when the boar behaves. She stepped backward, distancing herself from him like he was contagious. Ryan, she stammered. What is he talking about? You said, oh, shut up. Ryan snapped. You think you're innocent in this? The officers grabbed his arms. He jerked forward, shaking them off. And suddenly the rooftop wasn't glamorous. It was chaos. 2 glasses fell. Someone screamed. A waiter ducked. A chair toppled. Ryan lunged not at the cops but at me. He didn't reach me. 2 officers slammed him into the ground so fast the tiles cracked. His hands scraped bloody trails along the concrete. He howled the sound feral like someone watching their throne burn. Haley screamed Ryan's name but she didn't get close. Not once. She only screamed it like someone protesting the death of an investment. It was breathtaking. Sirens wailed as paramedics rushed in. Someone had panicked and fainted. Another slipped and hit their head. The rooftop was no longer a stage for Haley's triumph. It was a crime scene. Haley finally looked at me, not with rage, not even with hate, but with something far more honest. Recognition. She understood something she had never understood before. Not in the marriage, not in the arguments, not even when she mocked me beside her lover. I wasn't the weak one. She stepped toward me, voice shaking. Lucas, did you do this? No, I said truthfully. You did. You chose him. You believed him. You built your future on lies. I just stopped pretending. I didn't see the cracks. Her mouth opened, closed, open again. She looked like someone drowning silently in front of a crowd too busy filming to help. You ruined everything, she whispered. No, I corrected softly. I just refused to fund it. She shook her head. Mascara streaking down her cheeks, the blue dress now looking like a costume in the wrong scene. You're not the man I married. That was the only time I smiled. No, I said not anymore. And that was when Jenna, her loyal hyena, turned on her. You knew. Jenna screamed. You knew he was shady. You dragged us here. Are we all going down because of your boyfriend? The collapse wasn't loud. It was surgical precision. Surgical humiliation. Haley looked around, realizing the crowd wasn't laughing with her anymore. They were watching her drown. There are few things more violent than losing the audience he once controlled. She tried to speak, maybe to defend herself, maybe to rewrite reality the way she always had. But reality didn't bend this time because she wasn't in control of the story anymore. I was. And the story wasn't over. Not yet. Haley still hadn't paid the bill. And part of me, dark, calm, quiet, knew exactly how expensive the rest of this lesson was going to be. When the police dragged Ryan away, something else left with him. Haley's script. She stood there in her blue dress like a queen who just discovered the throne was made of cardboard and the kingdom was rented by the hour. The wind picked up on the rooftop, blowing strands of her perfectly styled hair across her face. And for the first time since I'd known her, she didn't fix it. Everyone watched her. Not like she wanted, not with envy, with calculation. People love a winner but they worship a downfall. Her audience, which she once fed with cruelty and faux confidence, now circled like sharks smelling blood. Jenna was first to attack. You dragged us into this, she screeched, fingers stabbing the air. Do you understand what this does to my job? To my boyfriend? You knew Ryan was trouble. Haley's voice trembled. I didn't know. Yes, you did. Jenna snapped. You bragged about how he was dangerous but worth it. You called Lucas boring. You said you needed a man who could break rules. Well, congratulations. He broke the wrong ones. Haley's mouth opened but no sound came out. A memory flashed through my mind. 3 months ago. Haley laughing over brunch saying, rules are for people who don't know how to win. Turns out rules are also for people who don't want to be handcuffed. Then a coworker from Ryan's circle muttered loud enough for the entire rooftop to hear. She blew up her marriage for a criminal. The words hit her harder than anything I could have said. She turned to me, desperation dripping from her voice. Lucas, say something. That was what stunned me. Not the panic, not the regret, the expectation. She still thought I existed to salvage her reputation. Haley didn't love me. She didn't hate me either. She didn't feel anything human toward me. She saw me the same way someone sees a wall. Something to lean on until something shinier appears. I'll let her speak first. Lucas, please. She pleaded, stepping closer. You can explain this. Tell them you don't blame me. Tell them this is just a misunderstanding. Ah, there it was. Not remorse, damage control. She needed my dignity to launder her image. No, I said. Just one syllable. Her face twitched like she'd been slapped. What do you mean no? I mean no, I repeated. No explanations, no cover, no sobbing. You can't do this to me, she hissed. Funny, I replied. I never thought I could, but here we are. The crowd was silent, enthralled. Haley's eyes flicked around, searching for a life raft. Anyone who'd take her side. But predators don't attract loyalty. They attract opportunists. And opportunists only stay while the ship floats. Tonight the hole was gone. She clenched her fists, voice sharpening. You planned this. You set me up. No, I said calmly. You set yourself up. I just stopped cushioning the fall. Her breathing hitched. Emotion, real emotion, finally cracked through her armor. She wasn't used to consequences. She was used to safety nets disguised as husbands. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whispered. He told me. Yes. I cut in. He told you what you wanted to hear and you listened because it made you feel powerful. Her eyes filled with something close to panic. I was unhappy. Lucas, you don't get it. I do. I said you were unhappy because you needed applause more than partnership. I loved you quietly. Ryan adored you loudly. You chose the noise and now you're punishing me. No, I'm letting gravity do what it always does. Her voice cracked. We can fix this. We could talk. Just don't leave me like this. There was the truth. Not love, not regret. Fear. Fear of being alone without an audience. I stepped closer. Not cruel, not triumphant, just honest. You didn't lose me tonight, Haley. You threw me away months ago. Tonight you just noticed. Her face broke. Not dramatically, not like in movies, just crumbled. A single tear slid down her cheek. Not for me but for herself. For the unraveling of her kingdom. Lucas, she whispered, barely audible. Don't go. I already did, I said. I walked past her through the crowd, through the dust of her ruined fantasy. Nobody stopped me. Nobody called after me. Nobody defended her. The empire she built out of insults had fallen. Not with flames, but with silence. And in that silence I realized something. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't destruction. It's departure. I didn't need to hurt her. Walking away was enough. But destiny wasn't done. There was still one more chapter. And she had no idea what waited for her at home. I didn't rush home that night. I walked down the stairs through the buzzing lobby out into the cold air of a city that didn't care who I was or what I'd survived. The wind carried the rooftop chaos behind me. Sirens shouting, Haley's voice cracking like broken glass, but none of it touched me anymore. For the first time in months I wasn't reacting. I was simply moving. There's a strange peace in knowing the storm has already done its worst. Once you've been gutted by betrayal, nothing outside of death hurts as much. Pain stops being pain. It becomes data. As I reached the parking garage, my phone buzzed. 8 missed calls, all from Haley. I didn't answer. Not out of spite, out of irrelevance. Once someone stops being part of your future, their voice becomes background noise. And my future was finally quiet. I arrived home around 1 a.m. The house looked exactly the same. Lights off, curtains drawn, everything clean and curated like the museum of a marriage that never existed. But something was different. Me. I opened the closet in the hallway and pulled out the box I prepared days ago. Not in anger, but in clarity. Inside was everything that mattered. Documents, keys, passwords, proof. Not trophies of revenge, records of reality. Haley had always treated truth like clay. Tonight it was stone. Then I walked into the master bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed she'd once shared with me, but had long abandoned in spirit. Her vanity lights reflected the same blue dress she'd worn at the beginning of our relationship, back when she used her beauty like a promise instead of a weapon. People think betrayal changes a marriage. It doesn't. It reveals what was always there. As I waited, I heard tires screech outside. A car door slammed. High heels hit the driveway like bullets. The front door flew open. Lucas. Her voice wasn't venom anymore. It was desperation. Lucas, talked to me. I didn't move. I let her come to me. She stormed into the bedroom, mascara hair wrecked, the blue dress clinging to her like a bad decision she couldn't unzip. You left me, she said, voice trembling. You just left. Yes, I replied. That's what leaving looks like. She paused, stunned by how ordinary the truth sounded. We can fix this, she insisted, closing the distance. Everything tonight, Ryan lied. I got confused. He tricked me. I made mistakes. Stop, I said softly. She froze. I stood up and for the first time she looked small beside me. Not because I was stronger, but because she finally saw herself without illusions. You didn't make a mistake, Haley, I continued. You made a choice over and over again. Her jaw clenched. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I corrected. You wanted a life where admiration replaced affection. Where excitement replaced loyalty. Where you could take without giving. You didn't ruin our marriage because you cheated. Her breath hitched. You ruined it. I finished because you needed to win more than you needed to love. She stepped back like the words had weight. Don't do this, she whispered. Don't leave me alone. That sentence, not don't leave me alone, was her soul without makeup. She didn't fear losing me. She feared losing the mirror I held for her. I reached into the box, pulled out the envelope with her name on it, and placed it gently on the dresser. Inside were divorce papers. Not angry, not spiteful, just factual. "You don't owe me any more," I said. Her eyes widened. "You can't just decide that." "I didn't," I replied. "You did. The moment you decided I wasn't enough." She lunged for me, not to touch me, not to hold me, but to stop the moment from becoming real. But I stepped aside and her fingers closed on air. For the first time, she wasn't in control of the narrative. She was in it. The collapse wasn't cinematic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a single sound. Her knees hitting the floor. "Lucas," she whispered, voice cracking like something precious dropped on tile. "Please," I looked at her, not with hate, not with pity, but with freedom. "You taught me something," I said quietly. "People who love you don't test how much suffering you can take. People who love you don't build futures on your ruin. People who love you don't confuse attention for affection." Her tears hit the floor. I took one final breath in the house where my marriage died long before tonight and said the sentence that ended it. "You can't lose what you threw away." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it softly. The lock clicked. Not to trap her inside. To free me outside. And that sound, the quiet final closure of something once sacred. That was the real ending. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Not victory. Freedom. And a story.